Hello again, everyone. We are almost done because this is the last video in this series, in which I address one of the major concerns of speculative space travel in fiction. That being, space is pretty big. So the odds of two ships encountering each other are pretty slim. How do science fiction stories get around this? Some of them just don't. In some stories, a starcraft is a lonely voyager that doesn't have surprise encounters between the planets. Other stories, though, they thrive on the adventure. The Enterprise was always running into other space travelers. But how? It's because in a lot of science fiction stories, like Star Trek, they have miraculous technologies that account for it. In Star Trek, they have scanners that can scour such vast areas of space that encountering another ship is no longer unlikely. But in my story, in original Zin, the starships don't have that kind of technology, which is a problem because the Malira 3 does encounter other ships. Twice they encounter distressed ships at different points. And how does that happen? Well, there's a pretty simple explanation, actually. Their communications technology accounts for some of it. But the main reason is that all the crawl ships in original Zin travel along predetermined routes that they have programmed into their computers. It's just a practical necessity for them, because crawl ships break down. They're designed to maintain life support even in the case of an emergency, but they can lose the ability to travel over long distances, and when that happens, they are stuck between the stars, waiting for someone to help. And it is a part of crawl ship life that you always answer every distress call. You need that assurance so that when you send out a distress call, you know it'll be answered. And because you're on a route that other ships will eventually travel, you will eventually be rescued. There is a scene in the story in which a member of the crew explains all this to a child, and through that conversation, he also explains it to the reader. Goffey was always one of the passengers' favorite regulars. He was particularly good with kids, which had been noticed by the parents among the passengers. Doolin had a young daughter with questions that he didn't have answers to, so he turned to Goffey. "Excuse me, do you have a moment?" "Yes," Goffey said happily. "Well, Kira was worried about the ship. I thought she might ask you about it." The curly-headed little girl was very serious. "Dad says everything will be all right, but he always says that." And Goffey smiled. "Well, this time your dad is right. Everything will be all right. The ship we're going to see is damaged. They can't hurt us." Kira nodded in approval. She liked it that he gave her a real answer. The other ship couldn't hurt them. That wasn't what she was worried about, though. "What about our ship? What if it breaks?" "It's always a risk. Crawl ship engines break down on every ship, even ours." Goffey gave a little glance to make sure that a real answer was what Doolin was looking for. He got the agreement, so he told Kira honestly. "The part of the engine that makes us crawl is called the cortex. The engine cortex is delicate. It has to make a bubble around the whole ship. Inside that bubble, we take away time so that we can move a real long way, real fast. If the cortex makes a mistake, then we still get where we're going, but we can't start the cortex again until it's fixed. Sometimes that takes a day or two, sometimes it takes weeks. Depends on what the problem is." "But you can always fix it?" Kira wanted to know. "Our engineers can fix most problems, but some cortex problems need energy transfers or replacement parts that we don't have. We have almost everything. But if something like a replacement spatial analyzer doesn't work right when we install it, then we're stuck until someone helps us." "Someone always helps?" "Always," Goffey said with confidence. "Space is real big. Do you know how big it is?" Kira nodded. Even at her age, she had some grasp of it. "My teacher, Mr. Edel, said that it's so big that every ocean of every planet put together would be tiny out in space." "That's right. That's why we have crawl ship routes." Doolin interjected. This was the part that he wasn't certain he understood. "They're like roads that crawl ships all travel?" "Something like that. They're all plotted out in every navigation computer. It keeps us from running into anything dangerous in space in most cases. It also makes sure that if we get stopped, that we're on a path that another ship will eventually spot. Sometimes it takes a long while. Kira surprised Goffy with her practical grasp of the idea. But we only got a little food, and a little air, and a little energy. No, we have a lot of food, and a lot of energy, and the air is constantly recycled and cleaned like the water is. A ship can drift for years on standard energy and supplies. Sometimes, when you're really unlucky, it can be months before anyone gets your signal. Even if it is months, though, we'll get through it. All you have to worry about is being bored or being late. Well, unfortunately for Goffy and the others, they end up having to worry about a lot more than that. That's the story, though. And if you're interested in reading the story, there'll be a link in the description that'll take you to the product page on Amazon so that you can purchase your own copy of the ebook. And if you read it, then thank you. And if you like it, thank you twice. And if you convince other people to read it, thank you 1,000 times. Hit the like button if you feel like it, subscribe if you do want to see more, and above all, share these videos if you know any science fiction fans. They won't hear about the book otherwise. Thank you for watching.